The Defense Department isn't giving up on the Joint Enterprise Defense Infrastructure contract. It writes in a new court filing that its defense of the contract could take several more months. Joe Jordan is CEO at Actuparo. He's former administrator of federal procurement policy. Joe, it's great to see you again. What do you take away from this court filing, understanding that you're not a practicing lawyer? What do you take away from an acquisition perspective from this document?
Woo, Francis, this is getting good. I mean, there are no lightsaber-wielding paladin, but this Jedi is just as entertaining.
Oh, my God.
So, look, a couple months ago, we talked the court was going to decide whether or not to sustain or dismiss Amazon's protest of this $10 billion cloud services award to Microsoft in late April. The court came back and said, we're not dismissing any of this. It can go forward, and gave the parties, Amazon on one side, the government, and Microsoft on the other, 30 days to figure out how to proceed in terms of setting a schedule and what goes in the administrative record and what interviews can occur and things like that. And that 30 days was up. They did not come to any conclusion. Those two parties did not come to any agreement. And so the court said, all right, well, I'm setting the schedule. And the judge said, you know, you have till June 18th to give us kind of what you think the next steps were going to be. And then, you know, there's a little bit more discussion until mid-July. But, you know, this thing is going on. And one of the interesting parts is, you know, the Defense Department had previously kind of hinted at and indicated, hey, if this protest isn't dismissed, we may have to just forego the whole thing and, you know, figure out another solution. But their lawyers' language in these filings say, you know, they're in it to win it, and they're sticking to their guns too, no pun intended. So, you know, I'm very curious to see how this plays out. And for the first time in, I don't know, history, but certainly my memory, you could have a former president deposed as part of a, you know, procurement protest, which is, you know, fun to watch.
First, Joe, two words: less coffee. What do you think is the most important thing here that's an indicator of the seriousness of the Defense Department? Is it just the fact that they filed this in the first place, or is there language that they used that indicates their level of seriousness?
Yeah, I mean, like you said at the top, I'm not a lawyer and I did not sleep in the Holiday Inn Express last night, but you know, when I look at the language that the judge wrote in compared against other Court of Federal Claims decisions or orders that I've seen in the past, yeah, it's clear that, you know, she's saying this has merit to proceed. Whether or not, you know, the protest will be sustained, who knows? But, you know, she's saying, no, I'm not dismissing any part of this, and, you know, we're going to go forward. And you know, the Defense Department, along with Microsoft, is saying, hey, we need to get this done quickly. And you talk about words, you know, they talked about the need for this cloud services contract for national security reasons. But I got to be honest, when I consult with a commercial client and I say, hey, why is this suboptimal process, you know, going on the way it is? And they say, well, that's the way we've always done it. I know it's not a great answer. When you say, all right, DOD, why do you need this to go so fast instead of getting to what might be new and enlightening information? And they say, it's for national security or it's for the warfighter. Then they're probably not relying on the best facts and data set. And so it will be really interesting to see how this administrative record is built.
So I know you can't speak specifically about JEDI. You don't have inside information. But in general, when you have one side with the vendor who continues and continues and continues to pursue a protest in venue after venue after venue, and you have the government side continuing and continuing and continuing to stake their turf, what does that say? And is there are there trends about how those kinds of protests tend to wind up?
You know, that's one of the things about this protest that's so interesting. You know, it is unique in that I haven't seen other protests where the vendor, the losing vendor, goes this strongly in terms of protest after protest. I mean, Microsoft has won this twice. And, you know, this contract was put out, the RFP was put out in 2018. And, you know, Microsoft still hasn't made a dollar and doesn't have any authority to proceed. So that's, you know, unique in a vendor in Amazon spending this much money to go after something where the result is very unlikely to be okay, sure, now we award it to Amazon. Success is far more likely to be now we're blowing the whole thing up and starting over. And it's not like the government customer is going to be super psyched with Amazon having, fought this battle for 3 years. So that's why on that side, it's unique. On the government side, them digging in their heels like this really is indicative more of trying to sustain and create precedent around their right to make their own decision in a case like this. In terms of the actual, effect on the Department of Defense's ability to procure cloud services, look, every single branch of the military has already moved on and is, standing up their own cloud service contracts. The Air Force has 60 different cloud service contracts, about half with Amazon and half with Microsoft, by the way, comprising over 4,000 terabytes of storage capability. So it's not like, there isn't anything going on. And think about how much the technology has changed for cloud services from 2018 and before, when the contract requirements were being written, and now. But I think the Defense Department is none too pleased with how aggressively this protest has been handled by the unsuccessful offerer, and is trying to kind of defend it for those reasons more than practical effect.
30 seconds, Joe. Is it possible that, since this is unique, as you termed it, that the solution could be unique too? The solution could be something we haven't seen before, rather than a traditional winner or loser?
Yes, absolutely could be. Everything's on the table. The classic solution is scrap the procurement and start over, but nobody really thinks that's feasible given the size and scope of this. So could you see, a settlement where, the Defense Department says, sure, okay, instead of one awardee, it's two, and it's both of you, but nobody else, and now we're done? I never really seen that, but I would put decent odds against something like that being the outcome here, and we'll just have to wait and see.
Joe Jordan, thanks very much as always. Remember, less coffee.
Never, Francis.